This podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's new Patreon community, the Global Coffee Think Tank. Check the show notes or head to patreon.com/mapperforward to find out how you can become a member today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and I'm joined by Sergei Kutrovski. Sergei, welcome back to the podcast.
Good to be here.
We're talking cafe managers, and in today's episode, this is the fourth of our 5-part series. I want you to tell me what makes a good cafe manager. What should people look for when they're hiring a cafe manager?
Yeah. So I think in the first episode, we touched a little bit about like what are the responsibilities of a cafe manager. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, the big one is a good cafe manager has to, one, embody the values. Like you have to understand that the company is more than just, cranking out money. And one, you yourself, you have to view yourself as not a cog, if that makes sense. You're not just there to fill in the gap. You're not just there to, make sure you take care of things, but you actually embody the values of this company. And that's actually what you're going to pass on to the rest of the team. Whether systems aren't in place yet, and you walk in with this understanding of the values and you want to execute on the values, it's going to allow you space and room to create those systems. And then if the systems are in place, then you can trust that system, you can work with the system. And then because you already know the values and the culture, you can create changes to the system in the proper way. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the beginning of what a good cafe manager is. I think in the past, when I've worked with other managers side by side, some of my favorite managers are managers who listened. One, they're willing to take just simple, not even critique, but just, okay, you're having trouble with something. Well, tell me what's going on, without saying, well, I know why you're having trouble. Let me fix you. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about fixing. It was about understanding. And those are the elements. I remember some specific people that just executed that really, really well. And then Lee, we did that training course in Tacoma about listening, like those simple steps. Like when a manager knows how to execute that, how to say, yes, this is what I hear you saying. Is that right? Just bring clarity to conversations. That's going to be a life changer. That's going to make your responsibilities, just lighter. You're gonna still have a lot of responsibilities. Mm-hmm. If you're able to carry that load with like having those kind of practices, it's gonna make a life-changing experience in general. So those are the first two that come to mind. And then I think one on the practical level is understanding business system. Like, come on, we keep talking about it over and over again. Like, P&Ls matter. Like, do you know how to read one?
I know you know why I'm laughing. Like, it's the bane of my existence in this industry. The number of people that just don't fucking understand how to read a P&L. In some countries, it's called an income statement, but it boggles the mind. And look, if you don't know how to read one, gone are the days where you had to go and like pay an accountant to teach you how to do that stuff. Go to YouTube and Google it, and go and find some like YouTube channels where people are trying to explain it to people who don't understand stuff. Yeah. Because when I work with my clients and I help them understand that stuff, and I have a very simplified way of doing it that includes all the detail they'll ever need, right? They're like angry that they didn't understand it before then, because they could have made much better decisions if they understood the way a P&L works. So, sorry, I totally hijacked that.
No, for sure. That's really good, because they are intimidating. I think if you've never had to do that, it is intimidating. It's a lot of numbers, lots going on. But at the end of the day, if you don't start anywhere, if you don't like look for that YouTube video, then really you don't even know the questions to ask. So it's not like, I'm no professional accountant. Like, I understand,
neither am I,
the numbers, like I understand where the ins and outs. I mean, I'm not no expert on reading and like making these amazing like programs and stuff like that, but at least I see some things and I'm like, okay, like that doesn't seem right. Like, what's that? I have the ability to ask questions, and questions could potentially lead to answers or to more questions. And that's a good thing. Like, but if you don't even know like what questions to ask, then like that's a bigger problem. So at least start with questions and then start searching. And within that is also putting systems in place. Like, a good manager is going to have certain systems. And a lot of the times what I've experienced is some managers come in to a cafe and they immediately put systems in place. Like, they know the business already. And I'm like, yo, just because you worked at this big shot cafe, like chill, like please, like get to know some of the, listen, like get to know some of the staff, get to know what bar flow looks like here. Like, you don't even know what bar flow looks like, and you're trying to figure out how to increase volume. Like, that's just, you have to take some practical measures before you create a system for that. So, but also, once systems are in place, the beauty of that is it creates accountability. One, accountability for the team, but also for yourself. Like, if you set a system, you should be willing to follow it, one, but then also when things like go wrong, you are not really confronting anyone. You're confronting the checklist. You're saying, hey, according to this checklist, we need this done. Like, it's not your fault. It's my fault. I made the checklist. For example, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, basically the confrontation and the accountability is on the checklist, and not necessarily having like, hey, you're this horrible employee, you're not, mopping the floors right. Well, if it's written, it creates that. So that's like, again, like one of those simple things that makes life so much easier for a manager when there's those procedures that are set in place. And it makes a much better culture in a cafe because everyone knows their role. Everybody knows their responsibility. They show up, they crush, and they keep moving forward. Not to, I mean, I wish it was that easy, right? But it doesn't eliminate problems. For sure. I still show up to the
Sergei,
cafe.
You're making it like sound like it's just magic. You wave a wand and everything is...
You still have to, you still have confrontation as part of a good manager, y'all. Like, that's important. Yeah. Like, you can't just, again, referring to what we've talked about, like, you can't just be passive aggressive. You can't just let things slip and show favoritism towards certain people. That can't happen. So confrontation is part of that formula. But when you have those systems in place, when like there's a par list and everybody knows they need 3 containers of vanilla and there's only 2, you can confront that, and it's much easier to do that. So you're setting yourself up for success, again, being proactive. And all of the owners or managers I've worked with have demonstrated that, good ones, right? I've also seen when those things weren't set in place and it was so difficult to navigate the day-to-day, aside from being just a manager and having to do like things on the fly and having to problem solve on the fly. And then you have to like take care of dumb stuff like why, is the puck bin not taken out? Like,
yeah, let's not have to deal with this stupid shit just to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we've got 1 episode left. And what we're going to talk about in the next episode is it goes to the heart of what the theme for the podcast is this year. And that is what problems need to be solved in the coffee industry. So let's have that conversation in the next episode. Perfect. Alrighty. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.